This is Juan Estrada with District 5 United. Thank you for joining. And I want to welcome Laura Diaz Tovar and Delma Hernandez from the South Bay Community Land Trust, along with resident of Virginia Apartments, Miguel Ipolito, to talk about how this organization is attempting to preserve affordable apartments.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having us this evening. Yeah, we're super excited to be here. And we do have some slides. So let me go ahead and share that out. I'm Delma. I am a community organizer with South Bay Community Land Trust. And then I'll pass it to Laura, so she can also introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Diaz Tovar, and I'm the operational co-director at the Community Land Trust. And I'll pass it to Miguel.
Good afternoon. I am a resident of Virginia Avenue. I'm working with Delma right now, and that's it.
Yeah. And again, thank you so much for having us here. We are excited to share a little bit about our journey towards preservation, um, specifically here on the east side of San Jose. And we'll want to share just a little bit of our history as well. South Bay CLT comes out of a long history of organizing around housing and survival in our communities. And our vision of community development was inspired by community organizing against the sale of public land to private corporations, such as Google in San Jose. So we really got started through direct action work here in our community. And there were a lot of first that saw many housing solutions, you could say, but that these housing solutions kept running in cycles and not addressing the root causes. So this Google land grab was definitely a catalyst for our organization to come together and think through a different vision for our community that involves our community. And yeah, and that's how our community came together and we envisioned this South Bay CLT. We were incorporated in 2019. Our mission is to combat displacement, land speculation, and community deterioration, and expand housing and economic development opportunities for low-income and moderate-income residents in Santa Clara County. And I'll pass it to Laura to share a little bit more about our values and how this works.
Thank you, Delma. And so one of our guiding principles when we started this work was really coming up with the values that are going to guide our everyday work, and also not just the immediate goals that we had, but also looking long-term in terms of preservation in the community. We know that acquiring land is very difficult, that preserving the land that's here is very difficult. And so we really needed to ground ourselves in some values that would sustain our work, not just in this moment, but for a long time. And so the values that CLT does their work upon is transformational change, which means that we're not just doing work in this moment, but that we're wanting to transform people's hearts and minds about what it means to be in a valley, in a place where everything's so expensive, and that the narratives of our communities are never told, right? So we want to make that transformation into thinking that it's all of our responsibilities to have affordable housing here in our community. Racial and gender equity in our work, sustainability and wellness, so focusing always on the wellness of our community, the wellness of ourselves, but then also how do we sustain that work, because it is difficult work, and we do it through taking care of each other and taking care of our community. Collective leadership, again, we're a very small team. Right now, currently, there's 5 staff and 5 board members, but we have a community of residents. We have a community of collaborators and allies in the community that really have come together over the last few years to really lead in this collective way, right? It's not one person having all the information. I think we always say we don't come to the community as experts. We're learning along with everyone. So there's that collective leadership piece of it. And the most important, they're all important, right? But the most important, I think, is love. The love of community is the reason we do our work. Early on, as Delma mentioned, when we started our work and there was a lot of direct action, we heard words like, oh, you're protesting or you're destroying or, doing all these things. But what we really came to find from our elders in the community that have been doing this work for a long time is that we're not protesting, we're preserving, and that we're protecting our community. And so that comes from a place of love. And so that guides our work every day. Some of the other, so those are the values. And of course, again, it goes back to our mission of combating displacement, but then also how do we decommodify housing so it's accessible to a lot of people in our community? Right now, it's not. And then also historically marginalized folks in our community, right? So the South Bay Community Land Trust is economically, socially, and racially diverse organization. And again, the preservation piece of the work is the most important. And we'll talk a little bit about in the next few slides how we are going about preserving another amazing community here in San Jose. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that. But if there's any, we'll leave some time at the end for some questions.
Thanks, Laura. And we'll go into now, as Laura mentioned, we do have we did acquire our very first property this past year was 4-unit property, but now we're working towards acquiring our second property. Yeah, and we have Miguel here who's gonna share a little bit more about the property and also share a little bit more about himself and why this is important to us. And we have also just wanted to mention on here that we do it is this property, as I mentioned, is in East Side San Jose. It's a property, it's a 1962 complex. It's 3 buildings, in total 18 units. And it serves, as Miguel will share, like it's a very close-knit community, and also low income and Spanish-speaking immigrant community. So yeah, I'll go ahead and pass it on to Miguel to share a little bit more.
Good afternoon. My name is Miguel. I've been living here in these apartments for 13 years. The favorite thing I like about this is because in that neighborhood, my friends live nearby, a few houses away. Why we are trying to acquire Virginia apartments is because the rent is going really high year by year. A few dollars up. And that's a problem to some of the residents here. And a year ago, one of the residents left because the rent was too much and she couldn't do it. We need affordable rent because inflation's way too high for now.
Yeah, and thanks, Miguel, and Miguel here also lives with his two other siblings and your parents as well,
Yeah.
right? And we've been working on like here you'll see some pictures of like us meeting here with the residents. So we have meetings and these past 2 years we've been advocating and organizing here with the tenants with the residents here in to make sure that like city council um does protect local funds for preservation and acquiring buildings such as Virginia and protecting communities such as Virginia. So yeah, we actually in this meeting down in this picture down here, we actually were meeting with Councilmember Ortiz. And to talk to him about why it's important to protect those local funds, specifically the one Measure E funds, to support affordable housing. And you also see here, Miguel is sharing his testimony at City Hall. So also also sharing, like why it's important for our communities to not just for us to like preserve the building, but there's so much more, like there is our community who has been living here for so many years, and Miguel shared that he's been living here with his family for 13 years, and we have other residents who have been living here for over it's been now like 3 decades, right? So it's very close knit, and we are working towards we've been able to, since the community did organize, because of the community's collective strength and advocacy, we were able to protect the $5 million for local funding this past year. So that has allowed us to apply for those funds, and we received a letter of intent from the city of San Jose for those funds to acquire Virginia, and have been able to apply for another fund called BAFA REAP. So we're working towards that, and continuing to work with the city to ensure that we can acquire this property and ensure that families are able to stay rooted in their community. And I'll we can finish off and maybe share a little bit about how folks can also support. Some of the ways that we've identified that folks can support is by following us and spreading the word. We want to again say thank you, thank you so much, Juan, um, and everyone for having us. I think again, like if we're able to share out a little bit more of share out, what's happening and why this is so important. So here are our as our website, our email, our Instagram, our Facebook, and in our website, folks are able to like sign up for the newsletter. They're able to sign up to volunteer. They're also able to sign up to invite us to present in any other space. And then we're also, apart from like working towards acquiring Virginia, other ways that we're working towards, other ways that we want to work towards, like making sure that affordable rents are actually happen here in San Jose, and communities are preserved here, is through these two actions. We're working towards protecting, saying yes to Prop 5, so really advocating for Prop 5, which is a what it would be, it would give local voters more power to address the affordable housing and public infrastructure needs in the communities, by lowering the voter threshold from 2/3 to 55%. And then the other one is our People's Preservation Fund, which which Miguel actually is part of our committee for this fund, but it's a grassroots capital campaign to sustain, grow our efforts to purchase land and housing in South Bay and ensure its permanent affordability, and also make sure that we're raising funds and we're able to like acquire and rehab buildings on a timely manner, because we know that we can't always count on depend on the city or on banks. We know that this is a collective effort, like Laura was saying. So if folks want to also join, either of our efforts, or donate to the People's Preservation Fund, you could also, the QR code is right here.
There's a question that said, isn't rent cost based on your income? My last rent increase was after 3 years, $150. Is that like a specific case? I guess let me ask it a different way. Typically, can landlords raise the rent any amount that they want every year? Or are there some rent protected apartments where the amount of the increase can be limited per year? And how does that relate to what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll go ahead and answer it, but if there's anything that y'all want to add to, there are some apartments, and fortunately in San Jose, because community came together, because we organized, right? We were able to really ensure that city council know that like rent control is really important for us in our communities. So I don't think it hasn't been that long. I think maybe about 10, I don't remember how long, but it's been some just a few years that rent control was passed here in San Jose. But it doesn't apply to all buildings. It only applies to buildings that are occupied before 1979. So that means that there's approximately 38,000 apartments that have rent control. So that means that folks are only the landlords can only raise the rent 5% a year, 5% of the rent a year. And but I also want to add that, like, if a tenant leaves that rent control apartment, that landlord is able to raise the rent as much as they want to before the next one comes in, before the next tenant comes in, right? So I think acknowledging that, like, one, we had to really fight for that rent control here in San Jose, and two, that rent control does not apply to all the buildings. And knowing that landlords can raise the rent, when a tenant leaves, that proves the point that, like, housing is not affordable here in San Jose. And I also want to share that that there was a report in the Enterprise Community Partners. They shared that from 2012 to 2017, Santa Clara lost about half of its unsubsidized affordable homes. So we have so many folks who are rent burdened here in San Jose, right? So us being able to seeing that, like, as Laura mentioned, collectively, we were like, oh my gosh, like, how can we take this into our own hands, right? And what a CLT does, a community land trust does, is it's a nonprofit that acquires land with the support, acquires land to take it out of the speculative market. So then that way we can there's more control, like community control of the land, and we're able to make sure that it's permanently affordable for generations to come. Right. So our goal, hopefully, when acquiring Virginia, our goal is to ensure that the rent doesn't go up. It doesn't, like, it won't go up 5%. Like, it just won't go up, because you want to make sure that's permanently affordable. Yeah, I'll share that in case folks want to add anything else.
I think that the only thing to add is over time, and this could be years down the line, it just depends on the property, that we're able to reduce rents in certain places, right? It's not something that can be done right away, but that it's not going to increase at all. And over time, we may be even able to reduce those rents on those properties. But then also there's the idea that this property can become whatever the residents want it to become, whether it's staying the way it is between, like, we own the property like tenant landlord, or it can become a co-op where folks own own the property outright. There's different models that we talk to tenants about, and that's a lot of the work that the organizers are doing with the community, right? Because it's not just a piece of property, but it's like continuing the community that's there, preserving the community that's there. We've heard from folks both at our first property and then this property that yes, the building's here, but if we were to leave, we're not just leaving this building, we're leaving like a community of people, right? And so the real job of the land trust is to preserve that, not just the building, but the community, and then asking what they want to do with the property over time, right? And we're there to support them.
All right, and the next question is, current setup for low-income families is actually generating more homeless due to exuberantly high low-income rents that are being constantly increased. As a result, a minimum wage person cannot qualify even for 50%. I think that's below market rate. And if a person is evicted due to non-payment of rent, then they cannot rent anywhere, not even a Section 8. What is being done to stop this?
The CLT is one, like, solution, right? And I think it's a really important solution in this, in the fact that we're being able to offer the, like, just the opportunity to be able to, like, take that land or property out of the speculative market, right? To make it affordable. But I think also there are other ways that folks are organizing, right? And ensuring that we're able to, like I mentioned, like lowering, like making sure that we have like rent control. And I believe there's also, um, yeah, there's the Prop 5 as well coming up. And then there's also Prop 33, uh, uh, that would help make sure that we have more rent control. But I think, yeah, I think there's a lot of different um yeah, different ways that we can organize and come together and speak up, and thank you for sharing that, because that's so important. And we also keep in mind, like, for properties, we are keeping in mind making sure that folks, like, uh who are Section 8, who have Section 8, are able to also be part of um this community, make sure that it's affordable for everyone. Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Yeah.
Apologies. Laura, did you want to add anything?
No, I think Delma captured it. I think the land trust model is one way to combat this. And yes, rents are high, and a lot of people have been displaced because of that. But just piggybacking on what Delma said, there are different things that we can do. That's why it takes everybody to kind of be part of this solution and this work, right? It takes land trust, it takes stronger rent control laws, it takes advocating for more Section 8 vouchers, also raising the minimum wage. Like, everything's so connected to people being able to afford housing here. So this is one way to do it, but certainly it doesn't, we're not buying properties every week, right? It takes time, and it's difficult a process to do. But there's other things and other places where we can advocate for policies changing that impact low income communities and all communities at this point. Yeah.
Did you want to add any additional information? Because I think we're pretty much at the end then.
If people want to come to our general meeting, join our newsletter, you can find us at our websites here, our email, our Instagram, our Facebook. Sign up for our newsletter. And then also, if you wanted to have us present somewhere else, if you know of somebody that wants to learn more about the land trust, we do offer longer, like hour presentations on how a land trust works and all the details of that. And then also, if you want to advocate with us on Prop 5, as Deborah mentioned, and then we're also launching the People's Preservation Fund. How do we build that money, the pot of money that we're going to need to keep preserving affordable housing here in San Jose, so we don't have to be so dependent on the systems, right? And then also, if you want to donate, that's another way you can support us. But we'd like to see you in person at our next meeting.
All right. Well, thank you again for presenting, and I want to wish everybody a wonderful night. Okay.